Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the talks, or the discussions, or the threats, if you like, that the German government, the current German government, is making about banning what they say is, what they allege without evidence, is the far right AfD. Now, well, I'll come back to this far right business in a minute, but the only crime that they can really point to here, that they call the AfD, this political party which enjoys quite a strong following, depending on where you go in Germany. They've got better than a quarter of the vote. Nationally, they're supposedly got 20 to 21% of the vote. This is opinion poll based, or even some of the recent voting. So they're one of the biggest parties political parties in Germany. So the idea of banning one of the biggest political parties in the nation seems quite astonishing, if not hair-raising. But nonetheless, to malign them and demonize them, they're constantly referred to as the far right, and the equating them to a political party from the 1930s and 40s in Central Europe is just constant and ceaseless and never ending. So what are they saying or doing, or supposedly saying or doing, or allegedly saying or doing, that gives them the classification of far right? Well, they want to change the immigration system. There's two things. They want to change the immigration system to be a skills-based immigration system. If the German economy needs the skills, in whatever it be, I don't know, rocket science or whatever, that those skills, that the people with those skills should not only be allowed to come in as immigrants, but they should be invited to. Now, that's hardly a radical position. If you've got the skills our economy needs, then you're welcome to come here. That's radical. I mean, like, wow. It's not radical, not even slightly, not even minuscule radical. It's a very, very sensible, reasonable policy. So that's number one. Number two is, and remember, these are the tags that are used to say you're fucking far right Nazis. They say that illegal immigrants or immigrants who've come in without going through the proper processes and any dependents they brought with them should be repatriated back to their country of origin, the place where they were born and where they came from, unless they can demonstrate that they've got long-term employment and they're reasonably self-sufficient and so on. So this would mean that if that were a policy were enacted, so look, you're here illegally. You're not a refugee. You've made false claims, filled out false paperwork. You're primarily or absolutely dependent on government handouts. So look, you need to go back to the country where you came from. Again, not a radical proposition at all. Very sensible, very reasonable, not a problem. By the way, that's happening to white people all over the world. If Australia wants to kick out white people, then it seems to be no problem. You want to kick out an illiterate brown peasant, then suddenly millions of dollars of NGO and legal aid money is available to fight it. But if you're a white person, too fucking bad, buddy, you're out of here. So it's it only cuts one way, these things. But nonetheless, there's nothing radical in that at all. And increasingly Germans and German voters in a supposed democracy are voting for it, which is their right. Now, the globalist sort of cabal are really concerned about this because given the amount of Germans that are worried about the mass immigration and other issues, the Green New Deal, things like that, they're moving to this AfD party that has policies that respond to those concerns. Nothing radical at all. So the government, the German government, or the globalist cabal, the German government is completely controlled by the globalist cabal. They think, okay, we need a trigger to go after these people. We have to have a trigger to go. Same as when they're going after Trump. Insurrection, far right. They make up all this nonsense to try and sort of get a triggering thing. See what he did? We have to do these things. And if you can demonize the other guys enough, then no matter how high-handed the action you take is, you can say, well, look, it would have been worse if we didn't do it. Now, what they're jumping all over at the moment in Germany is a supposed meeting where one or two people from the AfD allegedly attended, where there was people others at the meeting. I don't know how many people were there. Like, I think it was a conference or something like that. I don't know how many people were there. As I understand, it was in the multiple hundreds. But that it's been found that one or two of those people were supposedly neo-Nazis. Oh, fuck. Let's see. So everybody there is a fucking neo-Nazi. They're all Hitler. Ah! So this is so they're using it. Well, that proves it. They're fucking demonic. We've got to shut them down. We're allowed to, because look how terrible it is. Hitler was at the meeting. And this is the nonsense that they're peddling at the moment. And then supposedly hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions in Germany, filled with the righteousness of the indignation of it all, they took to the streets to protest. And so you've got this magical this magical fucking hat trick or trifecta, where then you've got the association with Nazis. Oh, Nazis! Oh, fuck! Then you've got the media running the campaign here. AfD associated with Hitler. Hitler personally is going from the grave to go to and then the media, and then the body politic, rushes up to say, oh, we denounce the Nazis, we're good guys. And then you get these hardly organic. I mean, they've got to be a million miles away from organic or natural. These marches running around to these people in tightly coordinated, fucking well-rehearsed, fully scripted, media-supported politicians in the front row doing these marches. We're against hate. We're against Nazis. We're against Hitler. And, of course, this is all nonsense. It's all a fucking piece of theatre. But this is it. So they're ginning up this idea of, and some of the suggestions that are made of banning any meeting where people who might have political views you don't like, you're not allowed to meet. Or fuck. Now, we've got to assume that the AfD and or any group that's anti-immigration or just wants a more sensible immigration policy, we've got to assume that they're completely infiltrated by agents of the intelligence services who are there to record and misreport every word. So if I don't know, somebody walks, somebody looks sideways on a Sunday or something like that. That was a Nazi. Look, that was proof that they're fucking Hitler. And it's this sort of level of absurdity for anyone that cares to look at it. But my view is that the thing that they really seem to be trying to swing off, that it's going to be the AfD or somebody in it or somebody they're associated with or somebody who was in that conference at the time, the one that's getting everyone on a lather, somebody was talking about or proposed or mentioned, allegedly talked about mass migration. So they want to gin up the idea of, goon squads coming along and dragging away, screaming, ripping the mother away from ripping the baby away from the mother's, the screaming mother and the crying baby, ripping them away with swastikas. And of course, it's just all nonsense. These people will be given an all expenses paid ticket to go back to the country they came from, courtesy of the German taxpayer, and they'll be invited. They say, well, look, you're not going to get government benefits anymore, but it's best on that basis you go back to where you came from, and if you're primarily or completely relying on government benefits, we'd like you to go back. Here's a ticket, all paid for. Here's a ticket that gets you back there, and here's a few $100 spending money to help you when you get to the other end. A few $100 that in the shithole they come from is quite a lot of money. So and they'll be invited to leave on that basis. And for people who have jobs and they're doing all right and they're fitting in, they've learned German and they're really making a good go of assimilating and that sort of thing, then they will be invited to stay and permitted to stay. So there's nothing even slightly radical, nothing radical at all in the AFD's position. But of course, it's anti-mass immigration. So this means the globalists must attack it viciously and tell any lie, any untruth, and engage in any level of deceit, because they control the media as well, any level of deceit to malign these people. But the reality is that their policies are what the people want, or many people want, and that there's not a whit of radicalism at all in those policies. Now, I just want to compare this to give you an idea of the scale. When I look at Britain and Australia for this, and I haven't got numbers on the US exactly, but in Australia, out of every 100,000 migrants they bring in, majority of the bulk of them from India, and certainly the Indian subcontinent, but which includes Bangladesh and Pakistan, all that sort of stuff, Nepal. So, out of I think it was about 500,000 that came in last year net. Now, somewhere around 20 of that 500,000, somewhere around 20,000 are considered economically useful and productive when they arrive. Now, others may subsequently become so in the generations in the future, but today, about 20,000 of them, out of that 500,000, only 20,000 are economically productive. Now, the definitions of that are a little bit loose, but effectively they mean that they're needed skills, and these people can walk into a job either straight away or within 3 months, I think is the cutoff point, within 3 months, and they have sufficient economic resources to look after them, so they won't be relying on government handouts or something. They'll have sufficient resources to look after themselves. In that meantime, some are reasonably well to do. They can afford to buy a house or something like that in a nice area. So this is the ratio, a very small percent, between 3 and at the very outside 5% are economically useful to the Australian economy. The rest are just all either they're just parasitic on the Australian economy to some extent, and they're very different than the sort of people that were coming as migrants to Australia. If you other than the refugee camps in southern around Europe, for example, following World War II, and there were some large numbers of there were numbers of people coming, or say in the Greek Civil War and the Communist Uprising, where a number of Greeks came, which with hindsight was seen as not a good move. Even today, 3 generations on, the Greeks are still marrying other Greeks and still think that the Greek political issues are more important than local Australian issues. So the Greek thing I don't think worked very well. But for people who came from, say, Britain or indeed Northern Europe, from I don't know, France, Germany, Scandinavia, that sort of thing, Holland, or maybe not. Even there, if they were rural people, they took them longer to integrate. But they all integrated within a generation, typically. But you look at a manifest of say, a migrant ship coming to Australia in 1970 as an example. If you look at the manifest, there were labourers on board, but there were a lot of nurses and bricklayers and concreters and carpenters and fucking plumbers and architects and those sort of people. Jobs and skills and capabilities were all needed in the Australian economy. They still are, actually. So these people were able to, again, they could pretty much walk straight off the ship and into a job, and this was very, this is a huge difference to the sort of people you get today. as migrants. So, they're obviously not going to. I mean, these illiterate Chinese peasants. What the fuck are they going to do? Seriously. So it's a very different type of landscape, and the people that of the 20,000 people who came to Australia last year, who fit straight in, the vast majority of those are white. So the amount of brown and black people with needed skills coming to Australia is pitifully small, and some of those even you'd question it. Like the Egyptian supposed academic who's given a job immediately in a university, or the person from Pakistan who's a union organizer or something like that gets given a job advising on gay lesbian affairs. These sorts of things. Those jobs are being created as well through unions and NGOs and so on. The NGOs are moving people around to fill their activist roles. So and they walk straight into a job, but they're not productive to the economy, nor are they needed. But the productive needed jobs, the engineers and those sort of things, those people are very few. So when you talk about immigration as totality, a skills-based immigration is sensible, reasonable, but it does stop the mass movement of surplus population literate peasants. And this is absolutely fundamental and central to the globalist project, the mass movement of illiterate peasants from the surplus populations area of the world. And the AfD in Germany is saying, well, we don't think that's a good idea. And that's why the globalists are going after them with such viciousness and the intensity of that viciousness. You've been a Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.